is a program focusing on uniting and strengthening the family by providing valuable information on all facets of family life. In this monthly series, Raymond and Brenda Johnson will focus on the definition and importance of family. Hello and welcome to this month's episode of Family Matters. I'm Kyle Schwartz, and our guest hosts are, as always, Reverend Raymond and Brenda Johnson. So welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
Good morning.
And this time we're going to be talking about, and it's a two-part series, we're going to be talking about preparation and strengthening marriage. So I assume today we'll start with the preparation
Yes,
part.
we'll talk about the preparation, also move into some of the strengthening. You know, one of the things I used to coach a lot, I coach a lot, and I'd always tell my teams that you perform at the level of your preparation. And I think sometimes we forget about that when it comes to marriage, that you're going to perform at the level of your preparation. And when we're talking about preparation, we're really talking about premarital counseling. Brenda, talk about that, some of the value of premarital counseling.
Well, it's very valuable. It's very important because even if you date a long time, you still don't know everything that is important for you to know about the person that you're going to make this commitment to. So I think it's very important for couples to have premarital counseling so that someone with experience can share with them and someone can ask them those questions that they won't ask each other. And when you first get married, you go through a phase of learning each other's likes and dislikes, and you learn history about a person, but it comes out over a long period of time, where in premarital counseling we can kind of condense things and ask those questions that will prompt you to talk about the most important aspects of marriage before you actually get married. And I think it's very valuable. And one of the things that I'm very concerned about is that couples are taking part in premarital counseling seems less and less.
That's
And
what I was just
yes.
thinking when you were talking about that. I was thinking over the last 20 years how much when people think of preparation, they think of what kind of flowers do I
Right.
The
want?
event.
What kind of food are we going to serve? And that is part of the preparation, but that's just for the wedding. That's
Right.
not for the marriage itself.
Absolutely.
And also, with more and more people turning to maybe an online minister or something like that, they don't have a home church, so they don't have a regular
Right.
minister
Yes.
that insists on this premarital counseling.
Yes.
Yeah, they have no accountability in their life is what we're talking about.
Right.
They have no
Yes.
accountability in their life. And statistics tell us that if you get premarital counseling, whether it's Christian counseling or just a some professional premarital counseling, the likelihood of divorce, depending on the statistics, go down 10 to 20%. Where those that do not get preparation, premarital counseling, it still hovers around 50%. One of the things that we found too, the value of premarital counseling, the tough questions that Brenda talked about, but we find that then people find out maybe this isn't the right person. We used to have a track record. We did a lot of premarital counseling, and we used to have a track record where about 50% of the couples would decide, you're a nice guy, I'm a nice girl, but we would be a train wreck together because there's some things about you that I don't think I can live with, because that's the big question. And we would always tell our counselors, you have to ask the big question. If this person never changes, can you live with them for the rest of your life?
That is a good question. That is a
Right.
good
Because
question. Because everybody goes in thinking, oh, they'll change.
They'll
I can
Yeah.
change them,
Yeah,
right?
you're right. I can
Right.
change
Yeah.
them, and these are just little quirks.
Yeah.
And but when we get married, it'll all work out. And and if you ask their mother, they'll go, they've been like that since they were a baby, right? You know what I mean?
Another 20 years is going to make a
Not gonna
difference.
make
Right.
a difference. So.
Right.
And I think that the other thing about having a counselor there's things that you guys would ask as professional counselors that, like you said, that they wouldn't bring up to their intended spouse,
Right.
and having that third party there
Yes.
to mediate and to ask the right questions is going to make such a huge difference.
And the thing about it, they would think about the questions.
uh-huh.
They
But would they ask?
but would they?
Yeah.
They don't normally going to have the nerve
Uh-huh.
to
Right.
ask, how do you act when you get angry?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? A young lady's not going to ask her, fiance, how do you act when you get angry? Well, I'm getting ready to show you because you asked me that
That
question. But those are the keys. And we just really want people, and young and old, people get married at, and sometimes even that. Sometimes people think, well, you know, I'm in my 30s and my 40s, so we know what we're doing. Not when it comes to
Sharing your
marriage.
life with
yeah,
somebody.
and sharing your life. And marriage is also one of the areas where practice does not make perfect, right? I got this, I've been married 3 times. Well, that's a sign you don't have it, right? That's not a sign. That's not a sign that you have
That's
it.
a good point. Good
So
point.
Right.
we just wanted to make that point first. For those that are not married, the key is if you get a good foundation, just like building a house, right? If you have a good foundation, you have a better chance for
Yes.
it to be a healthy marriage along the way. So we just wanted to add that first. And then for all of us that are already married, right? One of the things we talk about a lot is a relationship always needs maintenance. You know, Brenda
Just like a
talks
car,
about that.
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, we maintenance everything, but not our lives.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not our relationships. We don't go to seminars. People don't read books. They just, you know, they just will figure it out as we go.
Yeah, I have other things going on in my life. I don't need to worry about this
Don't
right
need
now.
to worry about that.
Yeah.
We're okay.
It's easier to do a little bit at a time, right?
And
than to wait till it's a
then
big
to come
issue.
to us when, you know, you're ready to leave. And we find out you've been gradually getting ready to leave for 5 years, but never opened your mouth. So
Right.
we want to lay a foundation, and for those that are out there, all of us have one room in our house. I like to say this, we all have one room in our house called that room for improvement. Now, some people have 1 or 2 rooms. Some people have a whole hotel full of rooms, right? But
No,
all
we're not going to
of-
mention any names.
we won't
but,
mention their names, but all of us can get better. You know what I mean?
Right.
At whatever we're doing in life, we can always get better. So, Brenda, let's talk about this developing for those that are already married, those getting married, and how to develop this stronger and deeper marriage.
Well, it's all about what you value. And those things that we value, we protect. We invest in those things that we value. We maintenance those things that we value. We don't purchase a house and just
Let it
never
go,
do any
yeah.
maintenance. Well, the toilet's broke, so let's just leave it. And the roof is leaking, let's just leave it. You know, the yard has a big hole and a leak, and we're just going to leave that too. And 3 windows have fallen out, and we're just going to leave it. No, we value that investment because we put so much into it. And how much more relationships over a house or over material things. A relationship should be valued. So if we value it, that means we're going to look after it. We're going to care for it. And we're going to know what the state of our marriage is.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what the state of it is, you're going to start investigating to find out what the state is, and you're going to start valuing it, and you're going to find out what you need to do to make sure it doesn't fall apart on you.
So what do you recommend for regular maintenance as far as like a weekly kind of meeting or a monthly? Like,
Well,
what do you
one of the
recommend?
things that we're real big on is family meetings. And we believe that if someone's in the intention stage and after they get married, you should have family meetings. In the beginning, you might need to have those family meetings every week. And with family meeting, that's if it's just a married couple, family meeting every week, plan it however you want to plan it. Set it up just like you're having a meeting at work. We're going to have an agenda. We're going to limit it to an hour.
That's a
We're
good
going to
idea.
let you know what concerns I have a few days before so that you have time to prepare. See, because if we're having a meeting, we want to send out an agenda, right? And let people know, okay,
Right.
this is the agenda. If you have a part, be prepared to discuss it.
Yes.
So if we do that in our family meetings and say, because most things in life are not an emergency, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
Emergencies happen, but the things in our relationship. So if Brenda does something on Monday, let's say, that I wasn't real thrilled with, but it's not an emergency. So I'll make note of it and say, you did or said so and so, and I'd like to discuss that a little more when we have our family meeting.
Okay.
Then she has time to think about it.
about it.
And then we will talk about it in a respectful way and not with intense fellowship. As we
And it gives you time to think about it, and you're not angry at the time.
Right.
Because most people want to address everything right when it happens. So whether it's time to go to work or time to go to church or wherever you're going, if something happens that hurts your feelings or something happens that you're not that comfortable with, then it becomes an intense fellowship because you have other things to do, you're rushing, you're frustrated, and you're trying to make a point, and the other person, it may be caught off guard because
Right.
they didn't realize that it hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
So it can turn into an argument. But family meetings are not just for those type of concerns, it's also to share your schedule because a lot of couples argue over daily, everyday things that conflict. So if I know on Monday that he has a meeting on Wednesday and Friday, that lets me know not to plan anything at that time, rather than just assuming. And then he says, well, I can't go with you to dinner because I have a meeting. Well, why didn't you tell me? So then the arguing starts
because
when really
communication.
we could have laid it out in the family meeting. We could have planned our week, and now everybody knows where everybody's going to be.
Right.
We had a situation recently where a person, the husband, was supposed to do something, and he forgot, and the wife didn't know anything about it. So I had to ask the question, you two do live in the same house, right? You know what I mean?
But it is easy for our schedules to get away from us.
Yeah.
Right.
I know that's something my husband and I do once a week is go through our schedules for the week. We used to share them on your phone, how you can share
Yes.
calendars, but he hated all my stuff like hair appointments.
It's too much.
Yeah.
Too much detail.
Yeah, so
But
we
it
just
is,
sit down and do
yeah,
that
it's
and
about
share.
that. And we sit down, we do that. What do you have? And then, that's an easy thing. And what we're really talking about, these things happen because you're intentional about it. They're not just going to happen just because. It's not a normal process, but you have to be intentional in your marriage, intentional in your relationship, that if I want this to work, these are some of the things that we need.
To do, yeah.
Tools, and that's all we're talking about, right? We're giving people tools so
Right.
that if they use these tools properly, they'll get the results that they want. I have a story that I always tell. What is it? Turning shoes into hammers and butter knives into screwdrivers. And what I'm talking about there is, I don't know about you, but growing up, we were poor. We couldn't afford the other O and the R, right? So we didn't have our nice set of tools from wherever you get them. Now, my mother would complain because every time she looked at one of her butter knives, the end is bent up because we were using it as a screwdriver, right? And when we needed a hammer, we didn't have a hammer, we used our shoes. So sometimes we could halfway get the job done, and but it was never done right. But if we were to give you the proper tools, if we had a real hammer, if we had the proper screwdriver, then you could do the job, you could do it efficient, and you could do it in a professional way. But here's what we find. Some people have the tools, but they still choose to pick up a butter knife and a shoe.
That's
So
true.
having the tools, now I have all the tools in my toolbox out there, but I can still choose not to use them. So just knowledge in and of itself, wisdom is the application of knowledge, not just having a bunch of stuff in your head.
Yeah.
So
Yes, and I think it's very important that couples realize that there's not any shame in getting help with your marriage.
Right.
The tools that we're giving, sometimes people are afraid to explore, to even ask, or to accept or receive the tools, or even to go to a marriage retreat or a marriage event because they feel that it puts a spotlight on them that something is
It's
wrong.
and that's wrong.
And so they kind of want to hide, and that's a major concern for me also, is those that are struggling that are afraid to get help.
because the worst thing you can have happen is you're around people, and we've had it happen, and you've probably had it happen too, and from all external appearance, their lives seem to be fine,
Normal, yeah.
and then one day they show up and say, we're getting a divorce. Like, where did
Where'd
that
that
come
come from? Yeah.
from? It didn't just, you put on your little public face, and we used to laugh. Our pastors, they have very successful marriage and successful ministry and travel international and on marriage is a big part of their relationship. But they talk about how in the beginning they would fight all the way to church, you know,
And then get out of the car.
yeah, praise the Lord.
Yeah.
And as soon as church is over and get back in the car, they'd pick right
Pick right up.
So that's how
But
a
I
lot
think
of
that's
people.
true. Yeah, a lot
Yeah,
of people do
a lot
that.
of- And then other things in a marriage, we have to take away those controlling things. Talk about the fact of people who throw out divorce.
Yes, and that's a concern also, is that couples enter marriage thinking, well, if it doesn't work, we'll just divorce. And I think when you start off your marriage that way and you have that attitude and that mindset, it makes it easy for you to run away. It makes it easy for you to retreat and give up. And if you take that word divorce out of your conversation and out of your meetings and out of your marriage, it gives you a desire to work for, because you're not focused on the word divorce. You're focused on keeping your commitment that you made. You're focused on making it work. You're focused on the other person's concerns and trying to negotiate and compromise, because that's what you have to do. And our pastor always told us that your marriage is as good as you negotiate it to be. But one of the words in the negotiation can't be divorce.
Right.
So we always ask couples to take that word off the table. Take that out of
Good
your
idea.
your language, because it's not going to help you. It's just going to hurt you.
And whenever it makes the other person was insecure, if they know that you have a plan B. You know, we're in marriage, but you already have a plan B that if this doesn't work. And a lot of times that's controlling language. When one person, just as an example, sometimes you have a scenario where maybe the husband is the only one working. He's the breadwinner, as it were. And he's the one working. He's paying all the bills. So he uses controlling language saying, without me, you can't make it. And if I divorce you, you and the children will really have a problem. So then that gives him control in the relationship, because he's dangling, as it were, this carrot over their head. Man, we got to go in. There's no plan B. We're all in. And I always say marriage is until death do you part, and you're not allowed to kill each other, right? You know? you have to stick it out, you know. And probably in this here, I guess we have time for a point of staying alert. In other words, paying attention to your relationship.
To signs, yeah.
To signs. Talk about that, Brenda. These signs, there are always little signs that'll happen ahead of time.
Yes, one of the signs is when the other person never wants to do anything with you. When everything is becoming separate, that's a big sign that, well, you eat dinner over there and I'll eat dinner here, or I'm going to eat dinner out, and if you don't want to go, fine, I'm going anyway. I'm going out to dinner and you just eat dinner at home. Or I'm going to go and enjoy this activity. Do you want to go? No. And you can never seem to meet up on any of these things, whether it's dinner, activities, going to the same church, those type of things. The couples begin to separate and split off from one another while still living in the same household, and that's a big red flag also. Not having the desire to even want to go to the event to please the other person. When you start losing that, that's a big red flag.
And that she mentioned an important point there. It's about, if I'm meeting 100% of her needs and she's meeting 100% of my needs, you have two people with what? All of their needs being met. Is when she's trying to meet 100% of my needs, and I'm also trying to meet 100% of my needs.
For you.
That's where the frustration comes
Right.
in. Because it's about, she mentioned, it's about sacrifice. If I'm not into going to the mall, but you're into going to the mall, I'm going to go to the mall just to walk around because I'm with you, I'm supporting you, and I'm doing something you enjoy. If you don't like going to the ball game, but you come and go to the ball game anyway because it's something that I enjoy doing, and you're along just because you enjoy being with me and you like the popcorn and peanuts, whatever your motive.
You talk to my husband?
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens.
And we're not saying every time.
Every time.
You know, we're not saying that every
No.
time I go to the mall, he has to
Right.
go. And we're not saying that every time he goes to a sporting event that I have to go. It's not like that at all. It's just being considerate enough that you will occasionally go.
Right.
It's not always a no, don't ever ask me to go. You know I don't like that. You know,
Yeah.
you want to
Once
make
in a
sure.
while can make a huge difference in
Yes.
how your relationship is going.
Yes,
to
and
make
you're
it-
just going to be together anyway. You know, the major thing is not the event, it's not the mall or the shopping, it's not the game. It's just being together. It's riding in the car together. It's being with one another.
And because we know there is time where, and we believe in, you know, the man gonna go hang out with the guys, same-sex friendships. The, you know, the woman, she's gonna go hang out with her girlfriend and have meeting, same-sex friendships. We don't, and some people do it and it works, but we're not a big proponent of you having opposite sex
Friends.
friends. You know, that unless it's a person that's a mutual friend of both of ours, and generally when they're with us, they're at our house or
Everybody's
whatever.
together,
We're,
yeah.
we're
Right.
gathered together. We're not into, oh, Brenda, I'm going out tonight with my 3 girlfriends from work, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Probably not a good idea
Yeah.
in the long run. Can we, before we close the show, and we're going to be talking more about things to do to
Yes.
strengthen your marriage in our next session next month, but I wanted to back up real quickly to the preparation for marriage. What do you two recommend as far as dating? What do you think is a good time period
Time
to
frame.
date before you actually get married?
When it comes to dating, it will vary, you know, obviously with people,
Ages, make a
and all
difference,
those
too.
things. But let's take the quote unquote, if there is a normal, the 220 somethings, you know what I mean, that
Okay.
are just getting started in
Right.
life kind of thing. We would think normally a year to a couple years. It might take a year of just the normal dating process before you even decide this is a person that I might want to spend the rest of my life with. Well, at that point, and we do marriage counseling and people pre-marriage counseling, ours is normally like 10 to 12 sessions.
Okay.
And if it's
That was my second question. How
it's
many
like 10 to
sessions?
12 sessions with us. And if the couple has extenuating circumstances, what are extenuating circumstances? Prior divorce, children. We talked about the blended family. Maybe one has children. So you have those. If you have those extenuating circumstances, it's going to be a little longer. Because after we go through working on the relationship of you two, we have to deal with and anticipate some things, dealing with this dynamics of these other circumstances. So, sort of kind of time frame, it might take a couple years, a year to 2
My
years. It
husband
can vary.
always told our kids that you should go at least through 2 holidays with that person,
see.
because
Wow,
it does.
that's a good-
Holidays make a huge difference
Difference.
in how you're separating your
Yes.
time between your spouse and and so he doesn't think one time is enough. I don't know if he's relating this to my family. No,
Family, but
Yeah. And
But
you know
he-
what? I think that's
kind of
really
makes
good.
sense, doesn't
Yes.
it?
And
Couples-
another point I want to bring up, I'm glad you brought up the premarital again, is because couples think that they have to wait until they are actually engaged to start some premarital counseling. And maybe some churches or pastors or some places may require you to be engaged, but we found that it's very important for couples to start before they get engaged, before they
good
purchase
idea.
the ring, to start to go through some of these sessions and start to figure out, should we get engaged?
Right, because once you purchase the ring and start making
You
the
feel
plans, it's harder to back
obligated.
out.
Yes.
So yeah, I agree with that.
You
That's
feel
a good
obligated.
idea.
And so we recommend that. We had a lot of couples come. We're not engaged, but what we want to do is we want to start the process to see if we're right for each other before we start spending this money and making these plans. So that is actually because you didn't just show up one day and go, I want to get married. You were thinking about it for a while. So you start exploring it. Get into the premarital counseling. It's not, it's not about the engagement. It's premarital counseling, and see if this really going to work. Will our value systems, line up with each other. You know what I mean? There's just a lot that goes on. That's why I say at least a couple years. Make sure you hang around their family, because if their family's crazy, there's probably a chance maybe. All of our families
All
have
of
one
us
thing
have,
in common. They're all dysfunctional, right?
That's true.
You know,
That's
one
absolutely
thing
true.
about it.
Absolutely true. All right, well, I look forward to continuing this conversation in our next
Okay.
monthly Family Matters, and thank you both for being here again today.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.
And thank you for watching Family Matters. If you have a concern or a topic that you would like Reverend Raymond or Brenda to discuss, then be sure to let us know. You can call us here at the station, 330-829-1234, extension 2253, or contact one of them as well to bring up a topic or a question. Thanks for joining us.